You're listening to Chasing Prophecy Radio, where we discuss anything and everything beyond the scope of normal. On UPRN Talk Radio, FM 107.7 in New Orleans and FM 105.3 in Mississippi.
If it's unexplainable, we're talking about it.
Whether you're a believer or a skeptic,
We cover everything where the unknown becomes the known.
And now, here are your hosts, Jenny Nicasio and Tom Callway.
Welcome to Chasing Prophecy on FM 105.3 in the Gulf Coast and 107.7 in New Orleans, where we discuss anything and everything beyond the scope of normal. I'm Jenny Nicasio, along with my fabulous co-host,
Hello.
Tom Callway.
Hello. New day is upon us. New week is upon us. Wonderful stuff. If you can see Jenny, she is bouncing around with her wonderful accessories, that she got from this weekend. I've never met a person Jenny has never met a place where she didn't walk into and then buy a souvenir. So
No, yeah. Well, during our break, I'll have to show you also what I got. It's pretty cool. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I'm
So-
sure if Jenny says it's cool, it's really cool. And if she says it's boring, it's probably awful. So
Here's my big hair. It's raining cats and dogs here in the Berg.
well, that's something we share because I can suffer from humid hair too as a guy. It's rough, but Jenny, we have a special episode. We have a first timer on here and somebody who wants to grow in this sort of media. So I'm happy to introduce this third person on the screen that people can see, our wonderful intern here at Chasing Prophecy, Emma Saylor. Emma, thank you for being on us. We're going to get to some Conjuring readings and some cool spooky stuff later. But before that, why don't you tell everyone your little, what got you interested, what made you want to be an intern here, and then your fascination with the paranormal.
Yes, thank you so much. So my name's obviously Emma. I go to Penn State. I'm a media studies student. The main draw I have to being an intern for a podcast is the creativity behind it, the communication. I also really enjoy people. I'm a people person. Actively engaging with another individual is super important to me and the field that I want to go into. In addition to that, I also find so much, paranormal stuff seems so intriguing to me. I've never really grown up in a never in a household that really pushed you couldn't watch horror movies. So I always with me and my friends growing up, we would watch the Conjuring movies, these super interesting movies. And the look on my face when I found out that some of these movies were based off of real experiences. Oh my gosh. It's truly mind-boggling to me. There's so many different theories behind anything paranormal that I've always just been a little bit fascinated in it. And so working with this podcast has honestly been so amazing, just hearing all the other things that I don't necessarily hear about.
Wonderful. And Jenny, you know what I heard in that? If you tell a kid not to do something, they want to do it more.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Honestly, essentially, that's what it is. I'm honestly glad that my parents were like, hey, just enjoy your life and don't die.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably the two lessons parenthood should teach their children. Don't die. Enjoy your life.
Enjoy your life.
Yeah.
That's really all you need.
We have a lot in the news today. But I should take these ears off.
Hey, you
so I
can't
can-
have two. You can't.
Yeah, we can't have two.
You got to go steampunk.
Yeah, we're gonna do steampunk. Okay, we have a lot in the news today. I got some really wild clips. But I'm sorry, my phone is not behaving. So there's a lot in the news today. Besides UFO news, we have some crazy stuff. So one of the clips I want to show you, and I don't see it up here. Oh no, don't tell me the one didn't come through. Shoot. So we have Biden. He actually resigned from the nomination for presidency, which now there's a lot of speculation out there what's really happening. And okay, you know what I'm talking about? Okay, a lot of people
on that too.
no. Okay, I have, first of all, that's one of the headlines is the resignation. Now, a lot of people are saying, and I hope you can't hear this because I have to probably go download. I forgot one clip, so it's going to download. So my nose is. So I am going to tell you about this. So apparently, a lot of people on TikTok and on X are saying that Biden is dead. Now, I don't know if you heard that.
I actually, before I heard it, I speculated that. Before I heard that.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So, yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to play the clip. Now, a lot of people are saying, why isn't he? And in fact, I don't know if I downloaded that one. But this one I have is showing a lot of people say that's never been Biden. Biden has been dead for a while. Biden's signature is not the same on his letter to, I guess, who did he send the letter to? Was it to the United States, America? Was it to
I think it was to the FEC, which is the Federal Election Committee.
Okay, now look at this. Look at this clip. Okay. Now, okay, and I hope I don't screw it up.
Like LBJ did when. But I want to go back to your previous statement, Dana, about not seeing President Biden today. I think as you think about what has transpired today since 1:45 p.m., not physically seeing him even address a camera in Delaware, let alone an Oval Office statement like LBJ did when he dropped out in March of 1968, it is disconcerting, isn't it?
Brett, they didn't even release a White House still photograph. Nothing. So are we?
I don't know why that went through. And then here's this one. A lot of people think he is wearing a mask.
Okay.
Of course, it's not going to play. Maybe because I don't know how to do this.
Oh, go ahead and hit play.
It's not playing. Why isn't it playing? Shit. Why didn't it play?
I got it.
It's probably. Why isn't it playing? Can't even hear the sound.
It's slow motion.
Wonder if maybe it's a bad connection. It was fine on my computer. Well, in this clip, if people can't see it and hear it, he rubs the back of his neck.
North Carolina.
Yeah, right here.
He was a very conservative guy who was very,
right there.
Oh
my God!
Do you see the skin?
Look.
Peeled.
Wow.
That's pretty freaky, isn't it?
That is pretty freaky.
Wild.
So the speculation with that second one was it was a skin mask, in the vein of when you have like actors playing certain like villains that they need like this kind of special latex, or it might not be latex, but like this special mask that's very thin because, well, cheap Halloween masks, right? It would crunch up, it would do, but for movies, you can't have that. It's going to look cheap. So what they make is like a lot thinner, more like caking on things and then making a mask from that. So you have a base and then you put something on top of it and something on top of it. So when you talk, it actually mirrors your movements of your mouth. Yeah. That's what that is. I've worked enough in behind the scenes to have seen these masks in person, to have felt, to have seen how they work. And do you know why it's exactly like that? Do you know why actors don't touch their face in roles when they're like that? Is because it is to get it that thin, you can easily mess it up because it needs to mirror your entire muscular feature. It needs to your jaw needs to move when you're talking. Your eyes need to look side to side, and your muscles need to act accordingly.
Yeah.
That's exactly how they are when you touch it. You know what I mean? Because they can slide off. They're not glued, in other words, to your face, because they need to be able to move with your muscle. So that's what that looks like. And just from a prop point of view, from a props point of view, from a very educated, on Hollywood mass and special effects in that way, that's what that is. When you touch it and it wrinkles, it's because you slid it out of place. And the only way it's going to go back is if somebody smooths it, back into where it's supposed to be. So, I can understand people having that sentiment about the mask. And with the first one about him not appearing, not coming out, I had said this on, what was it, yesterday, right? It's been just about 24 hours. On yesterday, when he came out and said that, he was turning it over and he's not seeking re-election, I said, uh-oh. And I said, uh-oh, because something didn't pass the sniff test. You both know me. You've worked with me enough to know where there's smoke, there's fire. What was the last major report about Joe Biden before this? It was that he had COVID.
Yeah.
COVID is relatively harmless to people in our age bracket, but it is very harmless to infants and to the elderly. And Joe Biden is a very old man. So I understand that he has had vaccines, and I'm sure he has the best medical treatment possible. I said, when on Tuesday, Wednesday, has COVID, but he's recovering peacefully at home, all that kind of stuff. That's it. They're going to say that anyway. He could have been hugging the toilet, hungover. You know what I mean? Yeah. They're going to say he's just that's just words. That's just words because they don't want to get upset. They don't want to make anybody mad. So then he, who has stated, I'm going back. I'm going to, have the September debate with Trump. I'm going to go and I'm going to run for president again, all of that. For it to be a flip in 42 hours, either they really wanted to screw Robert Kennedy out of the nomination or something happened where they looked at him and said, I don't know if he's physically okay, or yes, maybe he did pass. Yeah. And they can't say it because he would have to resign the presidency, and they don't want him to do that. They want him to fulfill this term, you know what I mean, through the election season. And then Kamala, if she were to win, would take over. That's their plan. That's what they want. But if he's dead, how are you going to shelter for 5 months somebody who's not even there?
Yeah, and another thing in the news is the hearing for the director of the CIA. Now, there's so many things going around, TikTok, YouTube, X, about that she was actually even at the rally. But this was really interesting at the hearing, and I thought I'd share it with you. But I had to do it the old-fashioned way, so I had to just pull it up on my computer and play. Can you hear it?
Most of my questions are going to demand a yes or no answer. Do you understand? I do. Okay, my first question. Both sides of the aisle today have asked for your resignation. Would you like to use my 5 minutes to draft your resignation letter? Yes or no?
No, thank you.
Was this a colossal failure?
It was a failure.
Yes or no? Was it a colossal failure is the question. Yes or no?
I have admitted this is a terrible.
This is a yes or no series of questions. Was this a colossal failure? Yes or no?
Yes.
Was this
Yes, I just want to make a disclaimer. I meant the Secret Service, not the CIA.
Oh, yeah. No, I knew what you meant.
Okay, but I don't know about everybody else. But here.
Tragedy preventable? Yes or no?
Yes.
Has the Secret Service been transparent with this committee?
Yes.
Would you say the fact that we had to issue a subpoena to get you to show up today as being transparent? Yes or no?
I have always been.
Yes or no? You didn't want to answer the question. Committee. We had to issue a subpoena to get you to show up today. That is not transparent, by the way. You stated earlier, Secret Service is not political. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Would you say leaking your opening statement to Punchbowl News Politico's playbook in Washington Post several hours before you sent it to this committee as being political? Yes or no?
I have no idea how my statement got out.
Well, that's bullshit. So, Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask unanimous consent to enter into the record articles by Punchbowl News, Political Playbook, Washington Post, all done at 5:24 a.m., 6:12 a.m., 6:34 a.m., a solid 3 to 4 hours before this committee got your statement.
Without objection, so ordered.
Okay. Is the Secret Service fully cooperating with our committee?
Yes.
Okay, you say you're fully cooperating with this committee. On July 15th, this committee sent you a list of demands of information that we wanted. Has the Secret Service provided this committee a complete list of all law enforcement personnel that were there that day? Have you done that? Have you provided a list to the Oversight Committee? Yes or no?
I will have to get back to you on that.
That is a no. Have you provided all audio and video recordings in your possession to this committee, as we asked on July 15th? Yes or no?
I would have to get back to you.
That is a no. You're full of shit today. You're just being completely dishonest. Mr. Chairman.
I thought that was pretty good.
I love that.
Yeah,
she came guns blazing.
Yeah, she's a firecracker from South Carolina, I believe, and
wow.
And she wrote a book that I had to read in school, actually, and in the Company of Men, a woman at the Citadel, I believe, is what it was, and she, through Army ranks and things like that, it doesn't surprise me that she came in and she made it and she went through all of that. So she's not going to take anything, especially with a military-esque background, when it comes to protecting the president, because in essence, armies, navies, military, everything like that is a form of that, is protecting our national interests, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Secret Service is of the president, you know what I mean? So I can easily see how she got defensive in that, because I'm doing my job overseas, abroad, foreign countries, soil I don't know, terrain I don't know, cities, towns, countries, you name it, I don't know. And you have the guy in your sight and let him line up and take a shot. That's going to really make her mad.
And it was not just that. It's just the stupid slope. Like, okay, they can't go on a slope, off roof that's sloped.
Yeah.
Yep.
No.
And then there was supposed to be 2 shooters. Now they said they confirmed there's 2 shooters. So, and you know what else makes me mad is they knew ahead of time and they still continued on with the rally. They should have told Trump that there was a shooter. And they didn't. So she should be fired. She should be fired.
Probably going to resign. They're probably going to give her that respect, if you want to call it that. She's probably going to resign at some point after this whole travesty is over. I'm glad they're doing it first, because you need to get strung out like that in front of on camera, in front of people, calling you, saying this is BS, because ultimately it stops with you. When you are at that level. I've been a director of companies before, multiple companies, and the I don't know and no one told me doesn't fly in business. I don't see how it could fly when protecting the leader of the free world. Furthermore, they had this individual. They didn't listen as well to people. Jenny, we've played clips of people who have said, "Oh, I saw the guy was walking up." You know what I mean? He was climbing up. He was doing this. People on the ground were trying to help.
They had video.
NSA is everywhere, people. You can try to live off the grid, but if you have a cell phone, I'm sorry. You know what I mean? Let's say hi to our NSA agent who's watching this right now. Hello.
Yeah.
Please like and subscribe. So, they knew everything about everything. They have AI more advanced than anything you can find on Bing or Google or whatever it is, right? They can detect threats. They can detect threats from serious threats away from like me just posting on like social media, hey, I want to do this. You know what I mean? They can detect all of that in advance. They said he was on their radar. Well, listen, if somebody wants to do an act of terrorism or violence, everybody should be on the radar, not just this person.
It's just amazing how they screwed this up. There's just so much going on out there, and the fact I watched the video, there had women. Okay, I'm a woman. I'm not a sexist, but they had some good points today about how they want 30% women. I know that what is it?
DEI.
DEI. That's bull. I'm sorry. If you want to protect the president of the United States, you have to have men. I don't care how strong you are as a woman, how big you are as a woman. You do not match the same strength as a man. I don't care. So there should have been more. 3 women. They were too busy with their sunglasses. They couldn't even figure out how to use a holster or take the gun out of the holster. So there's a lot of stuff that's going to be coming out soon, and they should just, I don't know, they got to figure it out. So in that half, we'll just get on with Emma. You can do your presentation, and then we'll play the Conjuring, and there's another UFO towards the end clip that I have.
Cool.
All right,
Emma, go ahead.
Okay, so before I start, I just want to ask you guys: have you guys ever seen the Conjuring movies?
Oh yeah,
scary.
Yeah. Do you guys have a favorite?
I think mine would have to be the one with the Annabelle, the little doll.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
What about you, Tom?
I'm an original guy, so always the first one in any series usually for me is the
So the one that I'm going to be talking about today. All right. Well, so this story was sourced and includes several quotes from allthatinteresting.com, Reddit, medium.com, ctinsider.com, and ew.com. And this is the story of The Conjuring, the Perron family home. So the Perrons were a family of 7 who lived in a farmhouse in Harrisville, Rhode Island from 1971 to 1980. The family included Roger and Carolyn Perron and their 5 daughters, Andrea, Nancy, Christine, Cindy, and April. The family claimed to have been terrorized by a paranormal presence in the house, which was originally built in 1693 and has a history of hauntings. The house, known as the Arnold Estate, was previously owned by the Butterworths and the Kenyons, and before that by the Richardson family, who were the first colonists to own the land. Local legends say that a woman named Bathsheba Sherman, who is believed to have been a witch, lived in the house centuries before the Perrons. Now, according to paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren, Bathsheba Sherman promised to haunt anyone who would go on to occupy the land where her home once sat. The source, I will say before I continue that a lot of this, there isn't a way to truly source this is all coming from the Warrens and their brains and mainly Lorraine here. So whether or not Bathsheba Sherman came out of the door and was like, hey, I'm going to haunt anyone who lives here, we don't know. But this is what on her biography said. The couple was contacted by the Perron family, who had moved onto the property in 1971. I will go more into the life of Bathsheba Sherman, but I'm going to move on to Ed and Lorraine Warren and who they are in relation to the case. I will ask you guys, do you guys know anything about the Warrens? Like, what do you guys know about them?
Oh yeah, I know a lot about the Warrens.
They're the
she's
highly investigations.
Highly religious. Her husband was he was a skeptic.
Yeah.
Yes.
She was,
Yeah.
There's a lot of skepticism around them, but they're mainly regarded as one of the most prolific paranormal investigators of the 20th century. Edward Warren, born in Bridgeport, Connecticut in 1926, and Lorraine Morin, her maiden name, born in the same town and year. The couple married in 1945 and gave birth to their only child, Judy Warren, in 1951. The Warrens traveled across New England, attempting to profit off of Ed's paintings. But along the way, they would stop at these haunted locations that were used to inspire Ed for the paintings. But this is said to be the catalyst for their notable career in the paranormal world. You'll see his paintings in the second movie more than you will in the first movie. One, like a notable one, is The Nun, which you see as a separate movie as well. Lorraine was a very devout Catholic, and she was said to have been a clairvoyant, which means that she was able to have insights on cases using paranormal abilities. She was also considered a medium, which is someone who can contact paranormal entities. Now, this all comes from her biography on the New England Society for Psychic Research website. As for Ed, he has a little bit of a double whammy here. He was a self-taught demonologist, but also a Catholic. In 1952, the Warrens founded the New England Society for Psychic Research. During this time, they conducted over 100 paranormal investigations after the establishment of this society, one of which was the story of the Conjuring house. In January 1971, the Perrin family moved into a 14-room farmhouse in Harrisville, Rhode Island, where Carolyn, Roger, and their 5 daughters began to notice strange happenings almost immediately after they moved in. It started very small. Carolyn would notice that the broom went missing or seemed to move from place to place on its own. She would hear the sound of something scraping against the kettle in the kitchen when no one was in there. She'd find small piles of dirt in the center of a newly cleaned kitchen floor. There were objects that would disappear, unexplained filth, and a very specific time of 5:15 a.m. where beds in the home would start shaking.
Oof.
Yes.
That would get me.
Yes. That scene in the movie, that's like, oh my gosh, chills. They would also smell rotting flesh.
Ooh.
Yeah, and they would hear unsettling noises. One night in particular, during her sleep, Carolyn Perrin, who was the mother, experienced a needle-like leg wound. This had appeared out of nowhere and intensified her already growing fears. Now, the needle-like part of it, the needle part, will come in a little bit later when I talk about Bathsheba, but I will mention that during this time in the 70s, Carolyn could have, and most likely was, painted as a paranoid mom who was going crazy, who didn't remember not cleaning up after things, who, her husband was most likely, he was off at work, so she's, going crazy at home with all these children, with all these daughters. So she was most likely painted in that light because it did take them about 3 years before they actually contacted anybody about this. So this was over a long span of time that this was going on.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So before the parents called the Warrens, they experienced even more of these strange happenings, with some of the daughters even claiming that they saw spirits around the home. One of which is alleged to have been Abigail Arnold. Now, according to the official Conjuring House website, she was the daughter of Martha Hopkins and Sylvanus Cook, and in 1795, at the age of 19, she married John Arnold, a farmer and the Conjuring House's owner at the time. The both of them raised their 14 children over 22 years in the home, and she's described as one of the spirits that supposedly haunted the house, but was a protective presence. Now, the parents, some of the parents would even go as far to say that Abigail would kiss the girls goodnight before they would fall asleep. Abigail, the oldest daughter, calls bullshit on that. She says that Abigail was responsible for much of the terror that her family experienced while they were there. So she's like, where do you get that information from? But then there's also claims that Abigail was this, she would warn guests to leave the specific room if evil spirits were near, and she only asks that visitors treat her home with respect. That's all she asks. Now, the Perrin family experienced these unusual happenings before Carolyn, the mother, researched into the history behind the home. In addition to the story of Bathsheba Sherman and Abigail Arnold, she discovered that the house had been in the same family for 8 generations and that many of them had died under mysterious or horrible circumstances. Several of the children had drowned in a nearby lake, one was murdered, and a few of them had hanged themselves in the attic.
Ooh.
Yes. So obviously, Carolyn is like, whoa, this is a little troubling to hear that a lot of children have passed away in this home. So this is when she starts really fearing for the safety of her family, and it prompts her to get a hold of local priests. Now, this was, at least from what I found, the priest is how they would, the Warrens would hear about cases like this. So this rabbit hole of searching for answers led the Warrens to the Perrins family doorstep. Now, upon their arrival, the Warrens were able to confirm the presence of a paranormal entity. How they were able to do that, I'm assuming it had something to do with the medium powers that Lorraine has, or clairvoyant powers. Again, all really speculation here. Upon their arrival, the Warrens were able to confirm, yes, that is the home, by the way, the Conjuring house. Now, upon their arrival, the Warrens were able to confirm this presence. And during the movie, there are dramatized showings of this arrival. I mean, in the movie, it's like so many things happen. There's like, I mean, it's a pretty dramatized rendition of it.
Yeah.
So, in real life, the Warrens' investigation of this case came to an end when Roger Perrin, the father, ordered them to, quote, get the hell, quote, out of the house, and ordered them to leave after this dramatic seance in which Carolyn began to speak a strange language and levitated out of her chair.
Oh boy.
She was then reportedly thrown across the room, hitting a wall, almost killing her.
Oh.
Yeah. Quote, the only time I was ever truly frightened was during the seance, said Andrea Perrin. There are no words to adequately express that event, end quote. Quote, I thought I was going to pass out, she also said. My mother began to speak a language not of this world in a voice not her own. Her chair levitated and she was thrown across the room, end quote. Yes. So I'll talk about this a little more, but from that, just Roger telling them, the Warrens, to get the hell out of the house. Yeah. Do you think it's a fair assumption that Roger might not have believed in any of this paranormal stuff going on from his reaction?
I don't know.
Yeah. So
to me, it sounds like he does believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, if you see something like that, right? It's going to shake you to your core. He was probably a very straight, this is this, and this is this, and this is this type of guy, right? So when he sees something that doesn't fit in his mold, he might automatically assume that somebody's trying to play a trick on him, or they think he's stupid, or this just doesn't exist, and get out of here. Or the classic ostrich in the sand, if I just bury my head and I don't pay attention to it, it can't hurt me type of thing. I think it might be more of the latter, that get out, we're done with this, and then if we don't talk about it, it won't happen, and that's that. And it's, it's a way almost of disassociating from the real evil that's going on in your house.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Now, this spirit that was seen as the main creation of this aggression towards Carolyn Perrin, I will note that the majority of this was towards the mom. Like, the daughters were kind of used as a catalyst to get to the mother. But this spirit seen as this was named Bathsheba Sherman. What a name. Yes.
Sounds like
She
cat food.
lived in Rhode Island in the late 1800s. With relation to Mary Eastie, who was killed during the Salem witch trials due to claims that witchcraft was carried on the matriarchal line. So there are histories of witchcraft in her family on the mother's side. Now, there are legends that claim she was a child murderer.
Child murder.
Yes. So before I continue on with this, I will note that these records are completely back and forth. So you'll just have to bear with the confusion of these records because it is extremely confusing. This was the late 1800s, so the records were not very well kept. So the first child that she was claimed to have killed was her own son. Now she was killed. It's claimed that she killed her son through a sacrifice to Satan with a sewing needle. So going back to that needle-like leg wound that the mother had.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That was like her weapon of choice for these child murderers. It's
a terrible weapon.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, awful. An awful weapon of choice.
Now, was it a knitting needle or a small needle?
It was
needle?
A sewing needle, a very small sewing needle.
Okay.
Yes. So I don't know how she did it, but she did it. And after she killed her son, she supposedly climbed a tree and hung herself. Now, obviously, you guys have seen the movie. You know the famous Conjuring tree.
Yeah.
Yes, that is where she did it. Now, by all accounts, Bathsheba Thayer, her maiden name, had a relatively contented childhood. She would grow into an envied beauty and tie the knot at 32 years old in 1844. Now, how she's depicted in the movie, you would not describe her as an envied beauty, but how the records do, she was described as this beautiful woman.
Yeah.
Her husband ran a profitable produce business from his 200-acre farm in Harrisville, Rhode Island. But the community would soon see the newlywed couple as a threat. Bathsheba had begun babysitting her neighbor's son when the young boy mysteriously died.
Yep.
Now, local doctors established that the child's skull had been impaled with a small, albeit fatal, tool.
Ooh.
So this small, albeit fatal tool
could have been a needle.
Sewing needle. It doesn't directly say, but one can assume that it was a sewing needle. Despite the fact that Sherman was the last to tend to the boy, the case never went to court, and local women were enraged. So this is another aspect here. So now we're seeing she killed her neighbor's son, not her son here. So that's another layer of this. Another legend is that Bathsheba Sherman's son wouldn't celebrate his first birthday, that he was not impaled by a sewing needle, but stabbed to death a week after he was born by his mother.
Oh, man.
Yes. So her husband is said to have caught her in the act and witnessed her vowing allegiance to the devil before, again, climbing the tree she would hang from in 1849.
Wonder why she killed herself.
Yeah, that wasn't exactly clear, but there's that whole theory that she could have been possessed. That due to so many lines of families that had experienced horrible deaths, that this was like a curse on the home. Again, all speculation. So, now there's also claims that she had 3 total children. Now, there's no direct census records to prove that this is true.
Yeah.
But if this was true, those that believe it are convinced that none of them lived past 7 because they were all killed by their mother. So
could this be an early postpartum depression? You know what I mean? Like we
Sounds
didn't
like
know
Mhm.
anything about
Mhm.
it, and it's still,
Mhm.
like coming to light even in current day. Could she have just
Mhm.
had episodes of that, which, as report, they do hurt their children. As reported, they also commit suicide.
Mhm.
Could
Yep.
it have more of a mental health than paranormal?
Mm-hmm.
I would surely agree from the information that I found in total that there might be more of a mental health issue here with her than um, a paranormal issue.
If you name me Bathsheba, I'm gonna have mental problems. I'm not gonna like that name. Like,
Honestly, poor girl named Bathsheba. She
and
was
Bathsheba.
and
bound
she's
to be a
attractive.
witch.
Yeah,
That
from
is
all
like,
reports,
and
she's
you're an
attractive, right?
attractive Bathsheba. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, that's a
Like
wild. That's a
you
wild
would have to go
statement.
by Bath for short, and you
Oh
don't
my
want to be called
gosh, or
Bath. Nobody wants to be
Sheba.
called Bath.
Yeah, or something. I don't. I would go by Sherman. Sherman's better.
For a
I would go by
girl?
something. Yeah, better than Bathsheba.
Yeah.
Well,
Better
isn't
than
there the Queen of
Bathsheba.
Sheba?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Um, but get this. Get this. Ultimately, Bathsheba's story remains largely unsourced, and records confirm that her date of death was May 25th, 1885, while her suicide in 1849 now appears utterly fabricated.
Wow.
So, right. So it's very intriguing because this suicide date and her actual date of death are completely mixed up, are completely not anywhere close to what, the 1885 proves, hey, she lived a long, happy life and died in old age, but then 1849, she passes away as a young woman.
So this Conjuring is the one with Keith Sutherland's father, Donald's. Is that the original?
I don't know the actors'
No.
names.
No.
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 What's the
As the
original?
father, you're talking about the father?
Yeah,
Roger?
I maybe I got the wrong movie, but I thought it was a Conjuring. It was Donald Sutherland stars in it. It's an old farmhouse and it's in the 1800s or the 1700s or whatever. And that's there was a woman that she was possessed. What the heck? Let me see. Maybe it's not even the right one. I want to see if I have to look it up.
I'm taking a look here. But he was a good actor. He just died recently.
He did. I didn't know he died.
He did.
Oh yeah, he did die.
I didn't know
He
he
did.
died. When did he die?
Like a month ago, 2 months ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't see anything about a Sutherland in the movies.
Let me see what movie did I. I'll say it was a paranormal movie. Paranormal. Maybe it's totally the wrong movie I'm thinking of.
But
it's an
while
American Haunting.
that's what it is. While you're
And that's
looking that
supposed
up, I'm
to
going to
be
get
true.
get the smart labels read here. Summer's officially here. Time to pack away those winter items. And there is a product called Smart Labels. Let me tell you, your future self is going to love you for getting this. Here's how it works. You buy the Smart Labels QR code labels on Amazon and stick them on your storage bins, boxes, totes, anything that closes and you can't see what's in there. Download the Smart Labels app from either the Google Play or iOS App Store. Scan the QR code and catalog all the stuff going into the bin with a name, description, or picture. Then months down the road, when you are looking for that thing you stored somewhere, you can just search in the app and it will tell you where you put it. My summer or winter clothes, bin 7. That purse that came back in style, oh look, bin 5. Seriously, people are calling it organizing magic. So, if you're doing some spring cleaning, getting ready for a summer move, or just wanting to get organized, you need to check out Smart Labels on Amazon. That's Smart Labels, one word, and get started with your Smart Labels pack today. All right. So, no Sutherland. You know who?
Yeah.
Real quick timeout. Jenny, you know the role he was good in? Do you remember Outbreak in 1995?
Yeah.
He was good in that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I liked him. I didn't know he died. I mean, he died just June 20th.
Oh, so yeah, just a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh.
No, he was
He
good.
was a
and
great
had some
actor.
later. Yeah, he had some later big roles in the Hunger Games and
Yes, that's where I know him from.
Yeah,
and Pride and Prejudice.
Shows you that you can be old and still make movies.
Well, if you evolve your style, you can essentially live forever. I mean, how long has Joe Pesci played gangsters, right, or mobsters? Since the 90s, 80s, and he was even nominated for an Oscar in the late 2010s for The Irishman. So as long even staying in the same role or same genre,
Yeah,
you evolve your style.
John Donald. He played a lot of different parts, not just villains. I think he was a great actor.
He was. He had a good range in terms of that horror to suspense. To
I'm trying to figure out which one was the first Conjuring. Maybe I have to watch it again.
The Conjuring's the first Conjuring, right?
It's just called The Conjuring.
I see. I can't remember which one it was.
But Ron Livingston was the dad in that, if anyone is an Office Space fan.
Wait. Oh my gosh.
Well, now I remember.
I didn't even put that together.
Yeah. Who actually, Ron Livingston got his start with Dolly Parton, if anybody remembers, way back in the day, probably 10 years before you were born, Emma.
Wait a minute. This says the Conjuring is made in. This what I'm looking at is wrong. It said it was made in 2021. They didn't remake it, did they?
They made a ton of them. The original one, no. The original one was 2013.
2013,
yeah,
okay.
This is the first one. This is the first one from like the franchise that got really big. This is like the big one.
Yeah. And also to further deviate, the this Conjuring, and you guys have heard of Rotten Tomatoes, their score or whatever. Typically, horror movies get awful scores because you know what you're going to get. You know what I mean? It's a scary movie. You want to be scared. It's things like that. This one actually got a high score of 86%, which is unheard of. 60% is a good score for a horror movie. This one got an 86%, and does the story actually fit? And for anybody out there who remembers, The Exorcist was the last time a horror movie won an Oscar. The be-all, end-all of movie awards. It was 1973 or so. So really, you haven't had any sort of luck, mainstream-wise, in winning awards when it comes to horror movies. This one actually did very well. And that's why I think it has its own universe. Now, it's not up to the Marvel or whatever like that, but there is a lot of movies. There are a lot of movies under this umbrella.
Definitely.
Did you want to play that video?
Sure. Which one?
The one on Conjuring. It's 5 facts you didn't know about The Conjuring.
Okay. I'll go ahead and hit it.
This newly declassified U.S. government video.
That's the UFO. That's not it. It's one after Dana Perino.
Okay.
The Conjuring cinematic universe has spawned sequels and spin-offs and sequels to spin-offs, and with the latest installment, The Devil Made Me Do It, on the horizon, it's showing no sign of slowing down. But let's take a look back at the 2013 James Wan film that started it all. Here are 7 things you didn't know about The Conjuring. Probably. You probably already knew this, but The Conjuring is scary. But do you know how scary it is? Horror films typically earn R ratings for violence, gore, profanity, or nudity, but The Conjuring is fairly light on all of these, and the producers were hoping it would get a PG-13. However, the MPAA felt the movie was just too generally scary, and there wasn't even a specific scene that could be cut to lower the rating. Not even this.
Nancy?
And since the filmmakers didn't want to alter the film's overall tone, the R rating stuck, sending shivers down the spines of Catholic priests everywhere, which is a segue that will make sense in a second. Thanks to the just plain scary R rating, when The Conjuring was released in the Philippines, some moviegoers reported feeling an evil presence after leaving the theater. So, Catholic priests were hired to bless viewers before seeing it and were kept on hand to offer spiritual and psychological support afterwards, which, and I can't prove this, is the first and only time Catholicism proved the MPAA right. Next thing. Based on a true story is frequently slapped on movies, even if the based on is given liberal amounts of creative license. However, in the case of The Conjuring, the real-life Lorraine Warren and Andrea Perron were consulted by the filmmakers and have vouched for the film's authenticity. Some changes, however, were made. For instance, the film has a nice little Hollywood happy ending, but in reality, the Warrens' presence in the house aggravated the spirits so much that the parents eventually kicked the demonologists out.
Let's get out of here.
That said, Andrea Perron has called The Conjuring a work of art rather than a work of fiction, which, as a diplomatic review of the movie, is a work of art in itself. After her debut in The Conjuring, Annabelle the Doll has since spawned her own trilogy of standalone films, and while the real-life Warrens did investigate a doll possessed by the spirit of someone named Annabelle, the actual doll was slightly less creepy than the one shown on screen. It was a Raggedy Ann doll, and just like the one in the movie that's kept under lock and key, the original Annabelle is on display at the Warrens Museum of the Occult in Monroe, Connecticut, safely secured behind some sort of phantasm plexiglass. Unsurprisingly, The Conjuring's production might have been just as haunted as the true story it was, air quotes, based on. While consulting the real Lorraine Warren over the phone, the filmmakers reported an unusual amount of distortion. And James Wan recalled one night working on the screenplay, his dog got very upset by some unseen presence in the corner of the room. Meanwhile, the morning after signing on to play Lorraine, Vera Farmiga awoke to find 3 large, fresh scratches on her laptop screen. And when visiting the set, the Perron family noticed a strong, cold breeze, which inexplicably didn't move any leaves on nearby trees. And even more inexplicably, our next thing is also about a tree. Spooky, right? You may know that nature is scary, but what you may not know is it's apparently not scary enough for James Wan. The enormous creepy tree featured prominently on the poster and throughout the movie was a total fabrication, both narratively and physically. It was an idea of James Wan's that was turned into a 50-foot set piece by the production team. As for the house itself, though the original Perron farmhouse was in Rhode Island, The Conjuring was filmed in North Carolina at a suitably creepy house because, like I've always said, it's easier to find creepy houses than creepy trees. Meanwhile, back in Rhode Island, our last thing is about the actual haunted farmhouse. The current owners reported nothing spookily out of the ordinary prior to 2012, but they began hearing things go bump in the night after the movie came out. Not from evil spirits, but from trespassing Conjuring fans and occultists.
What? I had to go.
The owners allegedly sued Warner Brothers for monetary damages and a brand new security system, but there's no evidence it ever went to trial. They have since resorted to selling tickets for daily investigation tours of the house, which can be booked online. And we will not be sharing that link.
Well, like I said, it doesn't always work when you want it to.
There you have it. What's your favorite piece of Conjuring trivia? And which of the movies in the Conjuring Conjumatic Controverse should we conjure up a video for next? Let us know in the comments, and for everything movie.
No, that's right. There were some things I didn't know about that, but the tree being fabricated and made, that looks so real.
It did.
They did a great job with that, and a lot of times the people behind the camera, the set designers, art directors, costume, they do a great job, and I'm glad they got that little shout out for that, because that looked real, and when he said I wanted to build a tree, they were like, sure, let's do it.
Wow. Yeah.
That was good.
Absolutely. And I did know that a lot of people were trespassing on their property. I did hear that one on TikTok.
Yes.
To make it go away, it wouldn't surprise me if Warner Brothers just was like, all right, look, here's $1,000, just buy yourself some cameras. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me if they did something like that.
Not at all.
No.
I do have a little bit left in the story for us. A nice sort of bow of a conclusion. There is a lot about this case that continues to remain unknown and speculated. The Perrin family themselves, they remain very steadfast that their home was haunted by these spirits. Now, despite this assertion, the Perrin family doesn't really remain consistent in this unity. Now, as I talked about in that video, Andrea Perrin has spoken out a lot about what has happened to her family, while other members of the family really just have not. And if they have, it's remained inconsistent with each other. Now, according to Andrea, the family continued to live in the house due to financial instability until they were able to move in 1980. Now, at this point, the spirits were silenced as soon as they moved out, and these hauntings ceased. This case is wildly debated, much with the rest of the Warrens cases, as there's a lot of scandal wrapped around the Warrens.
Yep, there are.
Yes, a lot of not great things. Some say they're fakes who manipulate the young members of families into acting in unusual manners, especially in The Devil Made Me Do It. That's a very big scandal with that one.
Yes.
Very, very big scandal with that one.
Mm-hmm.
I did search on Reddit for a lot of interesting perspectives from people from horror movie and paranormal fans. And one of the most interesting was written 2 years ago by someone with the username SpideyFan914. And they said, Andrea Perrin, the oldest daughter, continues to claim that there was supernatural shit. However, she also says most of the movie is fiction. I don't know. Again, speculation, because that video said otherwise. But for one, the alleged haunting was ongoing for 3 years before the Warrens showed up. The parents moved there with Carolyn, the mom, who bought the house on a whim without consulting the family, a point which is hinted at but not stated outright in the film. When they did, they ignored the parents' beliefs and pinned it all on Bathsheba, who was a real person who'd been Bathsheba, our girl, who was a real person who'd been suspected and acquitted of killing a child. So again, here's another perspective of it, that she was completely acquitted of it. That Bathsheba also didn't kill herself and died of natural causes at old age, and that Bathsheba didn't even live at that house. Anyway, Lorraine Warren insisted Bathsheba was the main entity, which Andrea disagrees with. At some point, the Warrens showed up in the middle of the night to perform a seance. This is the only time Carolyn was allegedly possessed. Roger, at this, got upset. He didn't buy into any of this supernatural nonsense and was worried what the Warrens were doing to his wife's mental health and asked them to leave. When they refused, Roger punched Ed in the face and the Warrens were kicked out of the house. Yeah. The parents stayed until for another 7 years and lived there for a decade in total. Andrea does have a book that she wrote about her side on all of this. Of course, it's worth noting not all of the Perrin girls have remained so outspoken, and it seems likely that some of them disagree. Also, the current owners of the house have never experienced anything. In fact, the homeowner got so fed up with people goggling at her home that she took it on herself to go through all these allegations and actively disprove them. So no ghosts here, possibly some mental health issues, but I'm not a psychologist and haven't met any of the Perrins. The Warrens were flat out scam artists who would go after vulnerable people and gaslight them and capitalize on their trauma. End of that Reddit. A lot to unpack there. But I mean, overall, this is obviously an opinion, and there's no facts to check any of this, but I mean, a lot of it goes kind of smoothly with what I found and what some of what the video said as well.
Absolutely.
But another Reddit forum that I just thought was very interesting and honestly a positive take on it. They said, Redegia says, I don't buy any of their stories, but they are neat stories. And as a film watcher, that's enough for me.
Well,
he's like,
there you have it.
They're okay. Now, as for my personal opinion on all of this, I will say that I think really this is one of the only notable Warren cases that I really didn't feel like had much evidence surrounding it. With the other Warren cases, such as Amityville Horror, The Devil Made Me Do It, and The On-Field Haunting, there are things that like one can look at and listen to that proves the presence of, a ghost in some way. But with this particular case, the history surrounding it really doesn't line up with what the history books like are actually saying and what the Warrens are saying, there are obviously, you know, I don't really doubt that there was a presence of a spirit in the home. I really don't. But I think that the scary things that were happening to the parents might have, I don't know if it was as serious as homegirl Bathsheba coming in with her needle. And I don't know how much of it is completely accurate to what, you know, the parents are claiming this big serious thing was happening. So yeah, that's my opinion. But what do you guys think? What do you guys think about it?
I think it makes a great movie. I think some of it's true, but I think it's a lot of fiction.
Yeah, it's a great story. We love talking about The Conjuring and the universe it created. And based on could mean anything from some creepy things to the whole thing. And I think, you know, I think it's a great story. But did all that stuff happen? Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yes, so that is my Conjuring information that I dived into. Very, very interesting.
That was wonderful
to experience and research.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Emma, go ahead and give your handles. Where can people find you?
People can find me at my first and last name, all lowercase with a period in the middle. Very simple and easy on Instagram and TikTok.
All right.
There you
Perfect.
go. Well,
Yes,
thank you everyone for tuning in, and thank you, Emma. That was a great story about the Conjuring, and thank you, Tom. We had a good show.
Thank you both. I had a great time.
Yeah, we're gonna see you all next week, same place, same channel on Chasing Prophecy Radio, live from New Orleans.